Water. Was I talking to the other day that said they don't like water? I don't like water. How can you not like water? It's good. All right. Have we got something to talk about here? I recently it was brought to my attention that one of these guys who has grown exponentially in the multifamily world over the last couple of years recently appeared on a publication that I subscribe to and I recommend everybody else subscribe. It's called therealdeal.com. The Real Deal. You have to use a "the" in there. And in that particular publication, it was brought to our attention that he's having one of his properties foreclosed on, and floating rate interest caps were killing him, and floating interest rates were killing him. Couldn't afford the property anymore, and looks like he's going to lose it. And I've been hearing a lot of that from a lot of those guys because they bought risky deals, they bought value adds, and they couldn't turn them around. They were too busy going out doing other deals and keeping a piece of the action, 3% acquisition fees, all that type of stuff that I always talk about. Thank you very much. Yes. Today is, as you know, I think. Listen, you guys all have to know. Oh, I don't have my coffee cup. Oh, hold on. Let me blow you away. Hold on. Okay. If you really want the whole thing, here we go. I feel like I'm the newscaster. How do you like that, Racine? Huh? Check me out. Pocket Square et al. Little different color up here. Got my look at an actual real button. Look at that. It actually unbuttons. Whoa, little monogram there. Monogram on the pants too. Yeah. Happy Dapper Tuesday. Yes, Molly, exactly. That's exactly why. Okay, I got to talk to you about something that's really, really problematic. I'm going to have you guys go check out a particular website, and let me see if I can get the let me see if I can get the StreamYard so I can share my screen. So anyway, let me give you the background. So a lot of these guys were out there doing risky deals. Didn't seem risky at the time. Sounded great. Convinced everybody that they're going to get double-digit returns and sign on up and you can't lose and blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? Money costs money, and you can't live forever on free money and zero interest rates. And now the chickens are coming home to roost. But it's amazing what these guys are now doing. And it reminds me of one of my most favorite expressions, is that when it seems like the world is out to get you, get in front of the lynch mob and make it look like you're leading the parade. And that is what I am seeing these people doing. And, you know, they're the ones getting in trouble. Like the one I mentioned earlier, they're losing their properties, being foreclosed on. What should we do? Let's just raise more money. How can we do that? I've got it. Let's call it rescue capital. Now, I have been saying to my students, I said it last night, my Monday Night Live call, you've got to be calling the banks. You've got to be calling the local lenders. They're the ones who are taking these properties back. The big players, the guys with the $37 million deal, you're not going to walk in there and write a check. That's what those hedge funds are for. That's what those big Wall Street guys are for, because they're the ones that sold that money in the first place, and they're the guys who are going to take it back and still make a profit on the deal. So Don't look at those opportunities. Look at the ones that are more local to you. Knock on the doors of your local lenders. Talk to the banks. Who's the person in your bank that is in charge of handling the distressed assets? Hello, Mr. Distressed Assets Holder. I want to take a crack at some of your portfolio. What have you got? Get to know these guys. Call them up every 30, 60, 90 days. But it's going to take relationships and it's going to take some time. But get started right now because that's where the millions are going to be made. But these guys are sitting back thinking to themselves, how can we solve this problem? Well, let's just come up with a new fund to go out there and prop up our existing bad deals. And it's called Rescue Capital. And now you might be thinking to yourself, oh, Charles, it doesn't work that way. No, you're right. Not all of them work that way. But the ones I've been looking at are working that way. And it's really, really problematic. And let me give you some questions that you should be asking these operators of these funds. Okay. The one that I looked at, and let me see if I can share my screen. Let me see if it's going to, yeah, right there. Okay. I'm going to ask John Racine to just tell me, or Molly, if you can see this screen. Oops, I can't see. Hold on. Okay, John, can everybody see this? I can see it. Anybody? Nobody else can see it? Molly, can you see this Elevate website? I see it. Thanks, John. Okay, appreciate it. All right, so folks, this is George Abreu. George Abreu. I like George. George is a nice man, and his company Elevate has grown so fast, and he's got tons of properties, thousands of units. Okay, he's the one that just appeared in The Real Deal. I read about it in The Real Deal, and the next day, it's brought to my attention that George is actually out there creating a rescue capital fund. And I think to myself, wait a minute. My first question is George going to be able to use the rescue capital fund to bolster his own deals? That just seems like double dipping. It seems like, bait and switch. You're losing your property, so let's go get some more investors to put in a position ahead of the other investors that you borrowed money or you've got raised money from, so that we can keep our properties. Okay, well, you know what, folks, this is his fund. I recommend you go check it out. Download book an appointment, ask the tough questions, read the PPM, because that's where all the information is. But here's the thing. This is the questions that I have after watching his video. All right. One thing he says in the video is that this fund will be placed in a higher priority in the capital stack than most equity positions. Okay, so who will they not be ahead of? What equity holders are going to be in a superior position to George's fund? I'd like to know that, and why. Because maybe some of the GPs want to be in a higher position than George's fund that comes in to save the day, because those GPs are George. Well, wait a minute, John. What makes you think that George is doing this and he's going to invest it? Because he says it. He says it that his properties can become recipients of this fund. All right. Now, here's the next thing you got to look out for. The fund criteria. Really, two things I wrote down. They have to be experienced deal sponsors, like Elevate, those types of people, and the fund, the properties that are having problems must have a clear path forward. Business plans that show a clear path forward. Okay, well, don't you think they probably had clear path forward business plans when they raised the money initially, and they didn't see this one coming. And now that's why they're in this position. So they're going to create new clear forward business plans. Well, they didn't do it the first time. What makes you think they're going to do it the second time? That's another thing I want you to answer for me. All right, now here's the other thing, and this is really interesting. Okay, let me explain to you this one. If the person is going to use Elevate's money, there will be risk mitigation actions such as personal guarantees. Okay, if George's fund and all his guys are looking for money, well, if one of George's properties and all his GPs are looking for money from this Elevate fund, will George be a personal guarantor of that property? And if he won't, does that property say, well, we're not going to borrow the money from George? The other thing that they say is there are trigger points for risk mitigation. Now, what they're saying in this is, in the event that the original owners screw up, can there be, what type of mitigation factors can we implement to save our hide? Okay, first one, there will be bad boy carve-outs. Okay, so let's just say, and this is something you need to ask of any of these rescue capital funds. I know seems like I'm picking on George, but I'm actually saying this, things you need to ask of all of these funds. If the fund is looking to promote one of their particular deals, and they're looking to put money into one of their assets that's not performing, and they put in as a risk mitigation factor a bad boy carve out, basically saying they're acting like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac does when there are bad boy carve outs. The fund, the rescue capital fund, is saying, hey, listen, if you guys fail in these things, we can come in and we can take this property back, and we're going to kick all of you out. And then now the fund owns the property. Okay, if the rescue capital people are the ones lending the money to the property that's struggling, and then they trigger a bad boy provision, and that GP of the property is now kicked out, and all his other GPs are kicked out too, and all the other investors are kicked out, and the property goes back to the fund, who benefited the most from that? The GP of the fund. Because now he was the GP of that property, and he triggered a bad boy provision, probably intentionally, and now he kicked everybody out. The property goes back to the fund, and now that sponsor owns that property, lock, stock, and barrel. Didn't see that one coming. So these are the types of things I want you to always think about when you're looking. I gotta add myself back to stage. I gotta remove this. Okay. So those are the things I want you to think about when you're looking at these rescue capital funds. Listen, the concept is great. The concept is well needed. One of the issues I had with George's is it's a $5 million fund. That's the first fund is $5 million. That's not going to save many of these deals. Many of these deals need a lot more than $5 million. And they're paying 14% return. Now, granted, the 14% is 7% from the second month on, all the way to the closing. When they sell, they get another 7% on top of all the years that they held it. So essentially a 14% return. But remember, folks, these are properties that are struggling to begin with, that are having trouble paying their mortgage. And the day after this money shows up, they're now generating a 7% return. per annum return. Wow, what happened? Why were they able to do that so quickly? What are they doing? With some of these properties, you can't just refinance because they have prepayment penalties. So there's a lot to delve into in these rescue capital funds. If you think about it and you understand how multifamily properties are owned and operated, you got to question, how is this really working? And is it in the best interests? There is a fiduciary responsibility by the members of an LLC to look out for the other members of the LLC. If they come in to this deal in a different capacity, with a different master, which would be the Rescue Capital Fund, how can they be a fiduciary to both organizations? There's an adversarial relationship between the two. That's going to cause some litigation issues that I don't think these people have thought through. So keep that in mind. Ask the tough questions. And folks, I hate to say it, but sometimes you're better off just letting the property go instead of getting in there trying to save it. One of my clients is involved in a similar situation with another guru, and they're wondering where to draw the line with dumping good money after bad into a property that the value, it was sold as a value add 5 years ago, and there's been no value added to this property ever. So that's the thing you gotta think about. Anybody have any questions? Because I'm going to be wrapping this up. I hope this was helpful. As always, question. Don't believe anybody. Question. That's why I even tell my students. One time I told, I had a mantra. I have lots of mantras. One of them was, don't trust anybody. And one of my students said, Charlie, you're saying not even to trust you. I said, yeah, my mantra has no exception. Don't trust anybody. Vet out everything that I say. And you need to do that with these people too. That's part of the issue, is the serving two masters with these rescue capitals, where the original sponsor of the property can also benefit from the rescue capital, and he's the same person. You can't serve two masters. There's a fiduciary breach right there. It could get ugly. All right, folks, that is all. What do I have coming up? Let me see. I've got another webinar coming up on the weekend, and then I'm working on that. David Peters and I are going to have a hotel to apartment conversion educational webinar. That's a good one. You'll like that one too. We've got on Thursday, I've got my YouTube live. I don't know if I've picked a topic for that. Molly, let me see. I'm going to stop the sharing. Molly will know. I probably have not. I'll have to get that. Monday, I got my hotel to apartment conversion summit. Not summit, but the my weekly phone call on Thursday. So keep in tune. Make sure you go to my website. Make sure you sign up, and make sure you are always there, learning some of the stuff I have to share. All right, everybody, great to see you all, and I'm ending the stream. Talk to you soon.